cooling system reliability, or perhaps the lack of reliability, on the Jaguar, Land Rover, Range Rover 3-litre supercharged and 5-litre supercharged engines. So this video, I'm going to talk you through all the different components that can go wrong, the fixes for them, what's involved, the reliability upgrades we have available, what cars are affected, what cars are not affected, jobs that you can be doing whilst you're in that area of the engine, and, you know, things and stuff. I'm sorry for regular viewers that knew I was going to say that then. Let's talk about what's commonly known as the Y pipe. So that's a common conversation that pops up online on forums. Have I got the Y pipe issue? How do I know if it's been done or been updated? Which Y pipe should I go for if I need to replace it? I'll explain all that and more to you now. Once upon a time, we had early built cars that were more reliable than the modern ones. Like this one. I'm going to spin the camera around. Like this absolute beast of a XKR with the same 5-litre supercharged engine in. We open the bonnet, or hood, if you're from America land, and we can find this pipe here. This is the pipe that connects to the Y pipe, because this and the Y pipe always come as a two-piece kit. And as you can see, this one is metal, and it's from Jaguar Land Rover. In fact, it's as old as the car itself. This one currently 15 years old, and it's never had an issue. It's never leaked, and it still isn't leaking now, and it's probably got multiple years life left in it, no problem at all. Now, what happens sometimes when cars get newer? Mr. Clever Clogs comes along and goes, I can make that part cheaper and lighter, so it's, you know, lightweight car, better performance and stuff. And they come up with this. Ta-da! A plastic version. Definitely plastic. That's how you test it. As you can see, this is plastic, and can you see the seam all the way around the edge here? It's like a two-piece mold that's been kind of sealed together, and basically that seam all the way around the edge, and it's the same with the connecting Y pipe, is prone to leaks, of course, due to that seam. Now, it's pretty common, so Jaguar recognised that. Jaguar Land Rover, or whoever makes the part, recognised that, and they come up with a fix. This one. Now, if I had to test this again, still plastic. Wait for the birds to stop spinning around the head. Still plastic, but this time it's got no seam around it. So they fixed the sort of seam issue, so that area of it is no longer prone to failure. However, from my experience, that isn't actually the most likely culprit of failure of the Y pipe. The most likely bit for it to fail is these connections here, where it goes into the very hot metal V8 or V6 engine block. That heat gets to these and it cracks them, and then they leak. So even if you have the updated pipes, or updated plastic pipes from Jaguar Land Rover, it's still not really a sufficient fix. It's still eventually going to fail. And if you've got plastic Y pipe sets on your car, I would suggest getting them changed sooner the better, because they are just destined to fail. From experience, it's not if they fail, it is when they fail. They will crack, they will leak, it's a weak point on the car. That's why we've got our aluminium ones at Wraptor, so we can kiss goodbye to those, we can kiss goodbye to those, and you can install this two-piece set, which does require removal of the supercharger to be able to replace this bit here. Put the supercharger back on, and then this connecting pipe can go back onto it. So, how to identify what pipes you currently have fitted? Pop your hood if you're in America land, or bonnet if you're in Great Britain. you may have to pop off the engine cover if you run with an engine cover, and then under here you're looking for this pipe here. So as you can see, this is the updated style seamless plastic one from Jaguar Land Rover, but I would still recommend replacing that for one of the superior reliability aluminium ones. Or of course you may pop the bonnet and you'll see this type plastic with a seam around it, and I would definitely replace those as soon as possible. Okay, so that's the Y pipe. That, like I say, is probably the most common cooling system failure on the 3 litre and 5 litre supercharged vehicles. Pop those out of the way. Hey. Camera's not following me. Hello. Okay, so as I mentioned, it's a supercharger removed job to be able to access that Y pipe and update it for a superior one. With the supercharger removed, that will give you access to lots of other things, so it's well worth doing some other bits while you're in there and saving a fair chunk of labour, potentially decreasing the likelihood to having to remove that supercharger again to get to something in the future. Whilst we are in there, at the rear of the engine there is this pipe here. Now this is often known as the heater pipe on the parts listings, but to me I would call that a cylinder head crossover pipe. They call it a heater pipe because this outlet here goes to the heater matrix of the car, but these main inlets and outlets here, that goes from one cylinder head on one bank of the engine to the other cylinder head. Of course it's got a temperature sensor in the back there as well, so yeah, it's a little bit more of a complex design. The original ones on the cars are plastic. You can replace these for an aluminium one like this. However, this is way less common than the Y pipe failure. To give you an idea, I think I've seen probably 3 of these leak ever. Some of them along the seam, some of them the seals where it goes onto the cylinder head, in comparison to probably done over 100 Y pipes. So you see that the sort of failure comparison, this is much less likely. But it's very easy to get to whilst the supercharger is off, so if you would like to upgrade, not a bad time to do it at that point. Next, so with your super duper charger removed, it is an ideal time to do some maintenance on the supercharger if you so wish. We tend to inspect these while they're removed anyway, checking various things on here. You can change the oil in the back of it and stuff like that. And it's an ideal time to replace the Simposer, which is this thing. Another lump of plastic shit, again, which is a technical word that we may need to bleep out, meaning not very good, that lives on the back of the supercharger. This is designed to guide supercharged noise into the cabin to give that sort of driving sensation to the driver. But in honesty, I find they don't really do anything. They're quite a big unit, just takes up a load of room in the engine bay. They're plastic, which means they break, because with lots of heat cycles they become brittle, and when they do break you can have an air intake leak to the engine, which could mean that the engine doesn't run as smoothly as it should be. So this isn't a cooling system part, but again, with the supercharger off, ideal time to replace this with our blanking kit. It's a simple kit, gets rid of this big chunk of mess out the engine bay. Simple as that. And by the way guys, there is a whole another video already out there we did on supercharger maintenance, so if you're interested in carrying out some supercharger maintenance whilst it's removed to do these cooling system components, then go and check out that video. I'll leave a link in the description, and that explains what's involved inside the supercharger, all the oil and bearings and couplers and things like that. Go check that out. Whew. Right, next. So we've covered the main components that I recommend replacing or checking at an absolute bare minimum with the supercharger removed, at the same time as doing the problematic Y pipe upgrade. We can do additional items which don't necessarily need the supercharger removing, but it does make it easier whilst it's off. One thing would be the water pump. We've replaced a bunch of these, right, these water pumps, but I mean, we work on these cars every day. We work on thousands of them, right? So we're going to see a lot of different faults. What happens to these is a couple of things. For one, they can leak, and the second thing is the bearings can go on them. Okay, I've got a new water pump here, and basically how I would check this, I'll come and show you, is yes, visually for leaks, but I would grab this pulley and I would try and rock it. Okay, now you should be able to feel just a tiny bit of play. That's designed to be there within the standard bearings, okay? But it's very minimal, to the point where you can probably feel the play, but you can barely see it with a naked eye. If you can see this and it's obviously rocking, your bearings are wearing out. Now when they really wear out, it can be quite misleading. The horrible knocking noise sounds like serious engine damage, and it also sounds like the very common problematic supercharger coupler knocking noise as well. So it can be very misleading, and it's a quick check to check these. Pop the belt off, the drive belt that, you know, drives the water pump, and have a feel. Okay, try and rock that pulley. See if you've got excessive play in there. I've got an old water pump partially disassembled here, and as you can see, inside we've got a plastic impeller. Now again, it's plastic, it's not going to last forever. It's going to crack, it's going to break. So these fins could go missing, or it could crack and potentially spin on the shaft here. So as a part of good routine maintenance, if your water pump is getting a bit old, never been replaced in many years, perhaps consider a water pump. I tend to put genuine Jaguar water pumps on it. There are aftermarket ones out there as well. Whilst we're on the subject of water pumps, I'm going to talk about a connecting pipe that links into the water pump. In fact, two. So, it's another plastic to aluminium upgrade. That I call the water pump link tube. This pipe here slots in the back of the water pump with a seal, and that connects to the oil cooler that is located in the sort of V-shaped engine block. So again, it's plastic, it goes in a very hot part of the engine, so we remove them and replace it with this very cost-effective and reliable aluminium one. Now, if you're to buy this part off us, it comes with two seals. It comes with one this end and another one this end where it links to the oil cooler. You need two seals to change these. I've seen so many kits of these online and they only come with one seal, which is not very helpful when you're halfway through the job and need to get your vehicle reassembled and back on the road. So that is one other very common upgrade, and that's available on our shop along with lots of these other parts. But that's not all. There's another pipe that connects into the water pump. Now, the pipe that goes in there commonly breaks. This one, and that little connector there goes inside and it commonly breaks. So there's a couple of different types of upgrades for this. Firstly, older cars rock this type of pipe which pigtails back on itself, and it's a bit rubbish and it kind of rubs on the throttle body and can rub through on the car. So Jaguar delete that and they update it with this more robust two-piece kit here, like so. Now we can go one better than that again. That allows us to delete what is still a little plastic elbow, and from experience we're not liking plastic things in the hot engine bay, they break. So we replace it with this little kit here. That is a brass one, again a lifetime fix, being made of metal, not plastic. We expect these to last pretty much the lifetime of the vehicle. Now you may have noticed this little thing next to it as well. This is simply a bleed screw. Now not all models have these. Some do. Jaguar XFR for one definitely has one. And these are typically plastic, and you can loosen these off to help bleed any trapped air out of the cooling system. But sometimes you go to loosen them off and they snap. So before yours snaps, I would suggest replacing it with a nice brass one like this. Lubricate the threads with a bit of grease, and it's just a lovely, very cost-effective upgrade. Next thing I'm going to talk about is these little bleed-off pipes here. So you can find these that typically come from the header tank, you know, the main coolant fill point under your bonnet. They're plastic, or mostly plastic. You can see bits of rubber, you can see bits of plastic on there. And guess what? The plastic breaks. I've got an old piece of one here
As you can see, what typically happens is we go to work on the vehicle, go to remove it as gently as you like, and it's so brittle. Someone just sneezes in within a 1 mile radius and it breaks, you know. Yeah, so it should be semi-flexible like that, but anywhere where there's been a lot of heat, it just becomes really hard and brittle. Yeah, so anyway, that's an example of one sheared off, which just happens when you go to work on these things. I'd recommend replace it with a new one. We tend to use a genuine part, and they're only sort of between 25 and 40 pounds depending on what model you've got, so totally worth it while you're there. Next, thermostats. Thermostat on 3 litre, 5 litre supercharged engines. They are not uncommon, but definitely not the most common point of failure. They can leak. Probably the most common point is along a seam. A seam is always a sort of common point of failure, and the plastic warps, this seal inside no longer seals and they leak there. But of course, being plastic, they could crack somewhere else as well, and you end up replacing these. Now there is metal ones available online. Personally, I tend to go for the genuine Jaguar ones. I've seen aftermarket plastic ones fail prematurely. The genuine Jaguar Land Rover product I find lasts a good 10 years, and it's a genuine product, so I kind of stick with those at the moment. There's a couple of different types. The difference between these two is this. So there's a couple of different types of thermostat, okay, and you need to obviously get the right one for your vehicle. So it's a 2-pin plug on here, so most people would think that is a temperature sensor. Wrong. Oh, you want me to tell you what it is? Yeah, okay. This is actually a controlled thermostat. The thermostat has a spring inside and also has wax that melts. When the wax melts by getting to a certain temperature, the spring can push a valve open inside and allow coolant to flow around the system. It's sort of a self-regulating temperature control for your engine cooling system, if you like. Now, this one is controlled, so this wax has a higher sort of temperature melting point than the one in this one, and it can be controlled via the engine ECU by current going to this little heater that's in there to encourage that to open. So that's a brief very brief overview on how the more modern thermostat system works. Most of the older cars are going to have this straightforward one. That's the thermostat. It's external on the front of the engine. Most thermostats on many manufacturers of cars are kind of like a thing bolted to the actual cylinder head or cylinder block, but this is actually a very external thermostat with just lots of pipes that go onto it. The thermostat is there. That's the thermostat. It sort of looks like, oh, it's right there, easy to get to. Yeah, kind of. You need all the intake pipes out of the way and then try and wedge your hands down a small gap, and then the pipes are awkward to get off. It's not the nicest of jobs, really. And the last thing I've got on my table to show you guys today is the charge cooler radiator for the supercharged vehicles. Now, there's a couple of different types of charge cooler radiator depending on what model you've got. We've got charge coolers for most supercharged and turbo models of Jaguar and Land Rover, Range Rover out there. And ultimately, it's just like a big radiator that sits at the front of the stack of radiators. You'll also have a radiator for the air conditioning, a radiator which is the main engine radiator, unlike this one. You'll have an oil cooler for the steering, an oil cooler for the gearbox, all sorts. But this one sits right at the front of the stack of radiators, meaning you can get a bit of a battering as all the stones hit it and things. As you can see, this one is actually not bad condition. This is why I had it in stock. It's one that was probably nearly new that we removed off the car and installed one of our upgrades. Perhaps they were having a performance package or something like that. But these go really terrible, can really deteriorate and deform and fall apart and clag up with rubbish, and yeah. And as standard, they've got kind of plastic end crimped tanks, if you like. Again, we just don't like plastic. What we have is this. This is a good used one. I'm just showing you as an example. If you were to order one of these, it would look even more shiny without little marks on it like this one. This is a good used one that I just
keep hanging around to show people. And it's fully aluminium, it's handmade in the UK, and it is also twice as thick as the standard one. We do another model that's nearly 3 times as thick as well. And of course, this is going to give superior cooling for your supercharged system, and it's also going to give increased reliability because there's no plastic end crimp tanks, and overall it's a bit more robust as well. So we recommend these for when this one deteriorates, or for hot climates, or if your car is tuned, running extra boost and things like that via, perhaps you've got performance supercharger pulleys. That's an ideal upgrade to help try and keep those temperatures at bay, or else you'll lose engine power. So guys, we sell the majority of these parts on our online shop. If you're after something in particular that isn't listed on there, feel free to reach out to us. Just email info@wraptorcustoms.com. And of course, we provide an installation service in our workshop as well. Most of these jobs can be done in a day while you wait. Obviously, for more in-depth jobs or multiple jobs, we may require the car more than one day. Well guys, thanks for watching. I hope you found this video interesting and informative. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Feel free to comment. Feel free to copy the link to this vid and post it on your socials, as you know, other Jaguar, Land Rover, Range Rover owners may find it useful to watch. And if you need anything from us, we offer full vehicle customization, maintenance and repairs, specialising in Jaguar, Land Rover and Range Rover vehicles. But we are also the right guys to be looking after your pride and joy, whatever make and model it is. And I hope you'll tune in with us next week, Wednesday around midday UK time. That's when we release our weekly video on YouTube.